I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it is Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. We have an all-new episode of the Carolina Weather Group coming your way in just a moment. And a special thanks. If you're one of the folks who support us on Patreon, then you unlocked early access to this episode on Sunday night, days before tonight's public debut. And if you would like to help support this show and keep it on the air, then you can support us over at patreon.com/Carolina Weather Group, with support tiers beginning at just $1 a month. So if you've already signed up, thank you very much. Hope you're enjoying your perks. And if not, I hope you will consider joining us over there at patreon.com/Carolina Weather Group. Here is our new episode for this week. Enjoy.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Carolina Weather Group. Happy to have you this evening. And we have our special guest tonight, Miss Kelly Dobeck from WOIO. That's a mouthful right there. Channel 19 News in Cleveland, Ohio. And if you don't know Kelly that well, she actually has some ties to the Carolinas. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And we have with us our guest panelist for tonight. You have seen her on the show a time or two, Miss Candice Jordan from the Schiele Museum, right? Candice, did I get it right?
The Schiele Museum.
Schiele Museum.
We just went over this.
We just went over it, so I knew I would butcher it, but it's okay.
Schiele.
Also,
Yeah,
can I make a call letter joke? I think Kelly can tell me if I'm wrong. I think it's supposed to sound like you're saying Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio.
I like that. I'm going to steal that. I think that's
Ohio.
a good idea.
Ohio.
I feel like every time I see it, I hear Wohio or Wohio.
It's supposed to sound like Ohio.
I've never heard that before, but I like it.
We're off to a great start tonight. So, Kelly, welcome to the show. I'm going to first-time guest. So we always ask our first-time guests this question. I know you've got a unique story. I've been reading some of your bio. But how did you get interested in weather? Like, what jump-started your weather journey?
So I feel like most meteorologists always have like this story, right, of what got them interested in weather. And mine really was my dad. My dad was a super big weather nerd. So I grew up here in Cleveland. We actually built a weather station and put it on my playground in my backyard when I was a kid. So we had set up our own website, all this stuff. So like when there were severe thunderstorm warnings, things like that, all these alarms would go off in my house. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Everyone else in my family was not a big fan of the 2 a.m. thunderstorm warning alarms going off and things like that. But he's the one that really got me interested in weather. We'd always watch storms coming in from our front porch. And that kind of sparked my interest in wanting to go into meteorology.
Kelly, I'm going to start this conversation, but I'm going to let Candice kind of take over because I know you and Candice have this friendship. But we talked about your Carolina ties. You actually picked UNC Asheville as your school of choice for meteorology. So why UNC Asheville, being in Ohio, where Ohio State is a big meteorology school? So how did you choose UNCA, and tell us a little bit about your time there?
So that's where I met Candice at UNCA. That's where we became besties. But how I decided that I wanted to go to school there actually was when I decided I wanted to do weather. Of course, I looked at Ohio State. Ohio University also has a pretty good meteorology program too. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with meteorology when I first was going to school. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do TV, if I wanted to do research. I didn't really know what other avenues there were. So that's why I started looking at other schools just to get an idea of what the other schools offered. And UNCA, well, first of all, Asheville is like beautiful. So when my dad was like, let's take a trip to Asheville, they have a good meteorology program. We Googled it and it came up as like one of the top 10. And I was like, sure, let's go there. So we took a tour and the campus is beautiful. Everything about it's beautiful. So that was a good selling point. And then the funny thing is, and he'll probably, if you ever tell him the story, one of our professors there, Dr. Hennon, he is from the same exact city as me in Ohio, from Strongsville. And I met him at my tour and he was like, I grew up in Strongsville too. So it was kind of like this weird connection. So that was kind of nice to be like, oh, someone that I know where my hometown was, teaches at, UNCA. I fell in love with the campus. I fell in love with the area. Loved the program because it was so small. I thought I could get more hands-on. And that's like one of the best things about my college experience was how much stuff I got to do while I was in college. Undergraduate research, field research, internships, so much stuff. And I think that is a huge credit to why my background is a little bit different than a lot of other TV meteorologists, because I got to dabble in a little bit of everything. And that's where I met Candice. Candice, she can attest that when she first met me, TV meteorology wasn't my best route to take at first. There's a lot of good stories of me and Candice.
You gotta let me tell that story.
Yes, there's a lot of good stories of me and Candice in broadcast meteorology class. Me just trying to get through, but it was my college experience was the best. I mean, just all the opportunities that I got, really just from like a Google search, and then kind of all the stars aligning when I got there, and just the area being so beautiful. It was great to kind of experience different weather climates too, because I was so used to just Ohio. I never lived in the South, and Asheville is, the South, so just experiencing all the microclimates in Asheville too, I think was just, it was great. I haven't been back to Asheville since I've graduated, so I'll have to take a trip soon.
One thing that I can tell about Kelly is from that first broadcasting class that we were in, and the first time she got up there, and they're just here, just get on the wall and just go for it, plow through it, right? And I will never forget this, and we still joke about this to this day. You can look up our Twitter feeds, and every year we talk about this, but she was going on and trying to explain something, and then all of a sudden she was like, because it's fall. This is what it is, because it's fall. And then just kind of fell apart. And it's hilarious. It's just a classic line. And it's so funny because firsthand experience, I saw her from the very bottom of her career, and to see where she is now, you're amazing now. You look like such a natural. So kudos to you.
I learned a lot from Candice. That's what even one of our professors said too when you graduated. They're like, you were always in Candice's shadow. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but she taught me a lot for sure.
One of the things about UNCA, I know it was a super small campus. We have some really cool opportunities. So what was your favorite class to take at UNCA?
Probably tropical meteorology, because I learned a ton. That was something that especially growing up in Ohio, it was something that really sparked my interest. And I ended up doing a bunch of undergraduate research with classifying hurricanes after that. So that was probably my favorite. I have too much, I get too stressed out thinking about some of the other classes that we had to take. So that is the media. When you asked me that question, I was like, what's my least favorite class? Is the first thing.
Okay, well, what's your least favorite class?
Physical meteorology was my least favorite. That was really hard. I thought that was harder than thermodynamics. Thermodynamics is hard. Physical meteorology was harder. Wait, I lied. Not physical. I'm wrong. Weather instruments was my least favorite class. And I know that doesn't sound like it should be difficult. Oh, cool. No, we were building circuits of weather instruments. So it was
thermistors, resistors.
Yes. So it was physics-based weather instruments. So that is the class I probably have the most nightmares about still to this day, is building circuits.
Dr. Godfrey. What was one of the things that you got to do outside of the classroom that was your favorite at UNCA?
We never hiked together, but we used to hike the Smoky Mountains for rain gauge research. We ran into a bear. I think I told this story with Massey about how we ran into a bear on a different podcast, or maybe I feel was I on your guys' podcast a while back, a long time ago?
Oh, you're gonna.
I think you were with Sarah Fortner.
With Sarah Fortner.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
That was right after I think I started
rebranded,
here.
But I thought that we told this same story on the podcast about running into the bear with Massey.
Can you tell me what the quasi-geostrophic omega equation is?
So I showed that equation on TV last week. I know. Hold on. So I was talking about, I have a segment, aside from doing the weather, during the week I have a segment called Science School, and I basically can just cover any science topic that I want any day. It's really great. It's a partnership with our local science center. We do tons of fun experiments. I interview lots of women in STEM. Super passionate project that I do, and it's just fun because I can kind of just do whatever I want. So we had that really big you got the same system that affected you guys and brought you some ice. What was it? 2 Mondays ago now, almost.
Depends which one you're talking about.
Right. There's, one of the ones in the past couple of
There's
weeks.
been so many.
Yeah.
I think it was the first one.
The first one, right at the beginning of January, I think. But I was able to kind of break down that system, and I started talking about trowels, and I showed the frontogenesis equation, and I just started throwing in different weather equations just to let people know. I'm like, hey, I know you thought that, the snow totals were the system we ended up being in the deformation zone. So we overperformed. A lot of areas saw like 2 feet of snow in portions of our viewing area east of Cleveland. So I was explaining like, why did we see so much snow? And I was explaining different levels of the atmosphere and all of that stuff. And I said, next time, if you want to, be upset and wonder, why were we wrong? I'm like, here's some equations that you can do that we learned in school. And I put them on the air. So that was really fun. So I don't know it by heart, but I just looked at it the other day and explained how frontogenesis works on TV. So I'm still using my meteorology equations, even on TV.
So tell me a little bit more about your partnership with the Science Museum, because me working in the museum, like I absolutely love the fact that you're getting out and about and showcasing science, and you really are a role model for young girls to go into science.
It's my favorite part of my job, honestly, is getting to do that. I mean, I love doing the weather and forecasting, but getting to go out in the community and, see younger kids and kind of, inspire them to get involved in science is just a very rewarding part of the job for sure. So with the Science Center, we've probably been partnered together for over a year now. I'll go there and check out some of their new exhibits, of course, but whenever I have ideas and I can't get my hands on certain chemicals or things that if I try to order them on Amazon, I'd probably get flagged by like the FBI or something for trying to, create explosives in my house. They are the go-tos for all the good stuff. So if I do like elephant toothpaste, all that stuff, they've got all the goods, any type of explosion that I want. They usually have all the ingredients to make it happen. So we really do a lot of flashy stuff to kind of make science fun, because that's definitely what draws the attention of some of the younger kids. And then when they realize that there's a bunch of science behind that, it's always super cool.
So tell me what your favorite science experiment you've done with the Science Center.
My favorite that I've done on my own is the exploding paint cans. When you do the baking soda, and the vinegar and the paint can and flip it over. That was super fun. And then some of my favorite Science Center ones, gosh, there's so many. I definitely was a big fan of the fire bubbles, where you have the bubbles in your hand and they light your hand on fire and, it burns off the bubbles. That's a good one. The elephant toothpaste is one of my favorites. That's fun. And what else? Gosh, I wish I could remember the name. So, when you have a balloon and you inhale the helium and your voice gets super high. Candice, you probably know the name of the one that makes your voice super low.
Was it like sulfur hexafluoride or something like that?
Yep, that's what it is. And I got to do that on TV and talk like an evil scientist. So that was really fun too.
Tell us a little bit about where you went after UNCA.
So I did spend some more time in the Carolinas after I left UNCA. So I learned a lot about the mountains and orographic lift and all that stuff from there. And then I went to Augusta, Georgia. So I technically lived in North Augusta, South Carolina, because the market kind of, it's part of Georgia, and then it's also part of South Carolina. So I lived there for over a year and got to forecast severe weather for the Masters, which was super exciting for my first year of being in broadcast meteorology, the most important week of the year in Augusta. And during the practice rounds, we had a tornado warning. And so that was my first really experience with severe weather during an event that was super important. But the weather in Augusta is definitely a lot different than the weather in even Asheville. You guys have so many microclimates in the Carolinas. It's just it's wild.
Do you miss forecasting the wedge?
No. So I remember us talking about this last time. I remember I just remember forecasting, here's this front. It's going to be there for a long time, just hanging out. That was probably one of the more difficult things to forecast in Augusta, because most of the time the weather was beautiful, but then you'd get that and it'd be or you get these like fronts coming in. And again, I was kind of new, so I was excited for, when weather was happening, if it was, thunderstorms, things like that. And then the front would just stall out right before Augusta. And I'm like, oh, well, almost. We almost had it.
What is the saying, Jared? Shay has the saying of fronts come here to die or something like that.
Yeah, the Carolinas. It's where fronts come to die. I'm sure that everybody was really thoughtful and very nice when the Masters had to be interrupted for a tornado warning.
Luckily it was the practice rounds, because I was so, even in Cleveland, we had to interrupt a repeat of the Masters for severe weather. And we got, people got really mad. So in Augusta, that would be times 100 for sure.
So did you get to go out and like enjoy the Masters any and not really have to worry about the weather, just kind of go enjoy the atmosphere?
So being the newbie, I was last on the list to get any Masters in. So one day during off season of the Masters, I tried to see how far I could get before they, yelled at me to get off of so I just wanted to see the green, and see how green it was. I couldn't even get anywhere near close to seeing it. So I tried, but no, I didn't get to go. I didn't get to go to the practice rounds. But I had a couple coworkers that did. They brought me back goodies from the Masters. I had lots of pimento cheese sandwiches. So that's my best memory of the Masters.
So Kelly, tell us about Thunder, because Thunder is adorable. I think I started following you on Twitter. You're cool, but Thunder, is the star of the show. Let's be honest.
People love dogs, and people are more likely to pay attention if you've got something really important to say. If I post an adorable picture of my dog and I'm like, hey, by the way, there's a wind chill advisory tonight, bring your pet inside. So they're more likely to see the post versus if I just posted a picture of the wind chill map. Unless the wind chills are like super intense, but like most of the time when I have something very important to say, the best way for people to get the info is if I talk about Thunder, because no one can be mad when you bring puppies in to eat. Thunder is going to get mad because I interrupted him eating, but yeah. So aside from Thunder, Thunder is very, very well liked. He is much more, people only come up to me. I've had multiple times where I bring him everywhere since he's so small. He has a little purse that he knows is his purse. If I bring it, he's like ready to go. I've had a couple people come up to me and go, is that Thunder? That's him in the flesh. He is the celebrity. He is the one that people try to recognize in public all the time. So
what's that difference like, the perspective for you living both in the Carolinas and up north with Snowfall? It's like a tale of two different worlds, right?
So I will say, when it snowed in the Carolinas, especially when I was in college, and it might have had something to do with me being in college, but snow was so much fun. People were so excited it was going to snow. Everyone was talking about it, the milk and bread, the kind of the worry, even if it was just like an inch or two, people were either pumped or they were stressed, and it was a big deal. Here, snow, it can be a big deal for sure, but more so people are more annoyed with it than, there's not as much excitement around it aside from, kids having snow days and things like that. But I definitely think people don't care as much because, like you said, especially the snow belt area where I live in Cleveland, where that gets all the lake effect snow, they just get it all the time. So it's just not even, no one even bats an eye when it's like, oh, it's been snowing for 5 hours. We have a foot of snow on the ground. Not a big deal. But if I said that and I lived in Asheville, I'm like, yeah, it's going to snow and we're going to get a foot of snow. If it would shut down, like people would freak out. It would be, it would be a huge deal. So definitely I would say it's more exciting in the South, but also a lot more, the stress level is a lot higher with forecasting snow in the South versus here. Lake effect is its own beast of that is a stress of its own, but much different than forecasting not only snow in the Carolinas, but also you guys have the snow versus mix versus rain, which is also a lot tougher than, more stressful for people there versus what we get up here. So.
And I think that's one of the more stressful things around here is not only are we trying to forecast for snow, but it's on top of that, we have to go through and explain what is the difference between snow and freezing rain and sleet and just regular rain. So it's there's a whole nother layer of information we have to try to add on top of it, where I feel like a lot of times you guys are just it's snow. Let's talk about how much. let's talk about the lake effect stuff, but you're not having to necessarily go through like that whole ice talk every time.
Tell us about Cleveland. I know you're a huge sports fan. What are some of your favorite spots? I know you mentioned food. What's some of your favorite food restaurants in Cleveland to visit? So if we were going, like, give us the top 5 things to do there.
I will say, if you're ever going to come to Cleveland and you have a preference, come during the summer. Don't come right now. You won't like it very much. You'll be like, why do you live here? We don't have a ton of sunshine for the next couple of months, but it does get amazing. We have amazing summers, not as humid compared to the Carolinas. So I will say that the humidity is much better. But yeah, it's one of those cities that there's so much to do. It has that big city feel, but it isn't a huge city like Chicago or New York. Sports are fun. I'm trying to think. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is awesome. If you're ever here visiting, that's something you've got to check out. They've got tons of fun exhibits. That's a good one to, even if you don't like music, it's just a fun to check out. The architecture is amazing over there too. Just really, if you do come during the summertime, getting to spend time out by Lake Erie, there's lots of fun stuff. We've got beaches. They're not the same as the beaches in North Carolina, but they're beaches to us. Some of the fun, I will say, food places, if anyone's ever visiting Cleveland. I'm a big taco person, and there's a place called Barrio. Super good tacos. Best place to get tacos for sure. I'm trying to think what else. Put me on the spot about all this fun stuff to do.
Your dance classes.
Oh yeah, I am a bar instructor, so I teach fitness classes too on the side. And then I also host our AHL hockey games. I'm one of the in-arena hosts for that. I have a lot of free time. I don't, but I just love being busy. That's super fun too.
So have you ever ate at Melt Bar and Grilled? Like, I've heard
Yes.
that is a great place to get a grilled cheese sandwich.
Yes, their grilled cheese, you have to come hungry because the grilled cheese are giant. They're so big. I'm trying to think. One of the best ones is named after a city in Parma. And I can't remember what the entire name of it is, but it's got Parma in the name. If you like chicken Parmesan on a grilled cheese, that is, but they have, I mean, anything you could think of on a grilled cheese. They have specials during like St. Patrick's Day. Corned beef is a big thing here for St. Patrick's Day. They've got all kinds. Yeah, that is definitely, if you're a big grilled cheese fan, you got to make a stop there. They have like regular, like the regular just cheese, but it's like the bread is big. They've got tomato soup. They've got like dessert grilled cheeses too.
Oh. Well, Kelly, we certainly appreciate your time with us tonight. For our followers and listeners, how can they follow you on social media?
So my social media handle on all platforms is at Kelly D Weather. And then Thunder also has an Instagram that you can find from my page as well. The more important person, if that's who you want, more pictures of Thunder, you can find on my Instagram.
Definitely have to go find Thunder on Instagram. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you all for watching. Thank you all for watching us at the Carolina Weather Group. We'll see you real soon.